How do you think we solve some of these problems with vets? Because it's such a big issue, right? And they're putting their lives on the line to, protect freedom, protect the country and stuff. Is there any solutions to like fixing this adrenaline problem or just the way that they're treated
I think I just
after
told you about it.
psychedelics?
Yeah, man. There's so many guys that have done that it's changed their life. Like, I'll give you another example. There's a nonprofit out there called Vets, and it was started by a SEAL Team 6 guy and his wife. That's who I used to go through. And they've been sending guys down for years now. Stanford did a study on it, and they would take guys like me. I didn't do this, but they'll take guys, especially that have really bad traumatic brain injuries from blasts, like shock waves and stuff. They'll fly them into Stanford. They'll do a brain scan. Like when you do a brain scan, it'll show like the parts of the brain that aren't working. It'll
Mm.
be like black spots in your brain where you took the most blasts or whatever, right? And they would identify all these black spots. And then they would send them down and they would do ibogaine. And then as soon as they're done doing ibogaine, they would fly back up to Stanford and they would do another brain scan. And time after time after time again, those black spots had disappeared and the entire brain was lit up. So
Really?
what's happening, like when you do this, not at Disneyland, but if you do it like a therapeutic setting and you have like intentions that you want, what's going on there is, so like the neurons in your brain are going back and forth through this thing called the default mode network. And that's from the back of your head to the front of your brain, the back of your brain to the front of the brain. And that's why, like, when you see the older we get, the more set in our ways we get. So what's actually happening is like the neurons throughout your life, they get lazy and they just want to use the default mode network, right? And so rather than traveling through all these different neural pathways in your brain, they're just, let's just go back and forth, back and forth. Some psychedelics will do is they'll actually put like a block in the default mode network, and that communication with the neurons still needs to happen. So instead of using the default mode network, they go back into these neural pathways that maybe you've never used or you haven't used since you were 3 years old. And it reopens all those neural pathways because the communication still has to happen. And when that happens, the entire brain is lighting up.
Wow. And they're actually proving this
Yeah, man,
with,
they're proving it.
wow.
And so you're seeing like these profound results from this, like me. Like, dude, I cut Adderall, sleeping pills, opiates, all that shit, like alcohol immediately. Like it
Wow.
also replenishes the receptors in your brain, which is the cure for addiction. The cure for addiction. So I had a really good friend of mine. He survived. It was the biggest car bomb that I had seen somebody survive. He walked out of it, massive brain injury. Then he gets shot in the head years later. I mean, you can imagine massive traumatic brain injury, getting shot right here, square on the forehead. Survived it.
How? Are you wearing a helmet or something?
Oh man, he
How's that
he.
possible?
It's a great question, but couldn't go outside even on a cloudy day without sunglasses. His wife called. She's like, he's bedridden 5 to 6 days a week. He's so dizzy he can't get out of bed. We haven't had sex in over 2 years. He can't walk without a cane because his vertigo is so bad. And I'd been trying to get him to go down there for a long time after my results. I was like, you got to try this, man. Just like, what do you have to
Yeah,
lose?
at
And
that
then when I
point.
found it was that bad, I
Mm.
was, I called him again and I was like, let me call my buddy Trevor. Let's get you in. We'll get you fast tracked. Goes down there, does the Ibogaine experience, comes out of it, leaves his cane there for a souvenir. Doesn't need it anymore. The vertigo's gone. Doesn't need his sunglasses to go outside anymore. Hasn't been
Holy
bedridden at
shit.
all. Goes home, bangs his wife after 2 years. And this is like 8 months ago. And it's still like the day after he left.
That's
Like he's
insane.
doing awesome.
This sounds crazy.
It is crazy. It's going to tell you what's even crazier is why the fuck is it illegal?
Right.
But you know what I mean? And so that's the kind of stuff that stuff is healing down there. And so I'm not saying psychedelics is like the end all be all. I think there's a lot of things that we could do, but I mean, I've not seen anything more promising than that, you know, for addiction, for traumatic brain injury, for PTSD, for depression, anxiety, like all that stuff it's curing. Rape victims going down and like they're able to function again, and
Wow.
It's
That sounds
really like
incredible.
it looks pretty promising.
So that's your main message to like people kind of recovering?
Yeah, I would say look into it, and then I mean there's a lot going on there, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
It would be like if especially guys, not just guys that are operating at the highest level like at the SEAL teams and the rest of special operations, but for anybody, but I mean you wrap your identity up into that. And guys, that becomes them. And so when that gets taken away, it's like, well, shit, who the hell am I? None of these skills really translate to anything else. I mean, just think if like your podcast got shut down overnight, what are you going to do? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
What are you going to do? This is what you do and you built an empire doing this, right? Well,
Hmm.
then it all gets taken away. You have to find a new purpose. And so that's something that's going on. The adrenaline addiction is going on. The TBIs, the PTSD, a lot of their wives left them, infidelity, guilt, survivor's guilt, having to kill people. Like there's like a heaviness that veterans have, and so there's a
Can only imagine. Yeah.
I think finding a new purpose and being able to like realize like being a Navy SEAL, CIA contractor, that's not who I am. That's something I did and it's gone.